Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from around the world. Welcome to the sixth session with COLEAD about climate resilience business models. My name is Alonso Bobes. I'm Program Associate at UN Women MCO Caribbean, based in Barbados, and I will have the pleasure of being moderating this morning afternoon the session. This series is part of the collaboration between UN Women in the Caribbean and COLEAD, supporting women-led business across Africa, the Caribbean, and beyond, with a strong focus on the agro-food sector. Through this initiative, we aim to foster collaboration, share knowledge, so you can share your knowledge also with us, strengthen business skills, and create real opportunities for networking and for market access. Today, as I mentioned before, we are going to dive into the topic that is not only a topic that is not only timely, but essential. It's how women entrepreneurs are building climate resilient business models in contexts where climate change is already affecting daily life, livelihoods, and food systems. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speakers for the welcoming remarks. Here with you is Mr. Jeremy Knops. He's the General Delegate of COLEAD, and he will be opening today's session and shares COLEAD vision. Go ahead, please, Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Alonso. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, even everyone from wherever you are. It's of course a great pleasure to be again with you today and to welcome you to this sixth session of our South series. To start by expressing our appreciation to UN Women for this continued collaboration, which is really being to this learning space dedicated to economic empowerment, peer exchange, and knowledge sharing across global health. And together, we're building really a platform for dialogue and for action. And that's really the spirit of this of this collaboration that we've had so far together, and that we hope, of course, to be able to maintain in the future. Now, today's session focuses, as Alonso said, on a crucial issue: how women's entrepreneurs can build climate resilience business models. And this is, of course, particularly true in regions that are amongst the most exposed to climate shocks, and sectors such as the agricultural, which is more hit than others by climate change. So climate change is, of course, not theoretical. It's something that we are all living and witnessing the impacts on our today. It's really reshaping agriculture. It's disrupting value chain, intensifying natural disasters, and putting additional stress on very vulnerable communities. And because of distant gender inequalities, was including, and we know them, but it's very important to always remind them: unequal access to land, to finance, technology, to markets, and decision-making power. Amongst the agricultural sector, vulnerable communities, women, of course, face to be able to overcome some of these challenges and basically to be able to fully adapt to climate change. Paradox is that as evidence when women have the solutions and are empowered to have resources, they tend also to adopt more sustainable practices, and we invest proportionally more in their families and communities and generate innovations that are more grounded in local realities. And that's why it's so important. That's why today's session is so important to highlight this, and more broadly to say that why supporting women entrepreneurs in building business climate resilient operations is crucial. Now, in order to be able to fully support women, there are some challenges, and of course, that remain really enable that women to have access to tools and resources. There's I already said at a general level, but at a more specific level, there's limited system, sufficient tailored support and restrictive legal and institutional environments, and high upfront costs of climate smart technologies, all of which, of course, make it even more challenging to specifically support women in building these climate smart operations now, and overcoming the barrier. Our experience, from what we've been seeing at CoLead, requires, of course, very targeted interventions at both a macro and micro level, gender policies, and assessment over time. So, firstly, the session of today is so important. It brings together inspiring women entrepreneurs from Malawi, Jamaica, Nigeria, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. Women leaders have been thinking every day and developing solutions that strengthen their business and communities. And it's really their experiences, insights, and lessons learned from their operations. So I would like to say really thank you to yourselves for being here and for the leadership that you're demonstrating in your respective sectors. I want to thank for joining and being part of this community. At CoLead, we're really proud to be supporting not only this initiative, but more broadly, this collaboration with UN Women through our Plus program, which is a program funded by the UNOCPS, which is meant to empower entrepreneurs throughout Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific countries to improve competitiveness and strengthen resilience to climate change across agricultural and agri-food value chains. I'm really looking forward to the discussions, and of course, as usual, I'll be encouraging you to pursue the exchanges not only in the chat but also after the session on agrinnovators.org. Thank you very much, and back to you, Alonso.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, for your words. Yeah, as a little reminder for the people, for our participants, the interpretation is available in English, French, and Spanish as well. So please, you can select your preferred language here as it shows the screen. You can exchange information in the chat as you are doing already, and we encourage you to do so. And please use the Q&A box to submit your questions to the panelists, and we will address them during the Q&A segment. Now I would like to pass the microphone to Angela Davis. She is Planning and Coordination Specialist at UN Women Multi-Country Office for the Caribbean. She will be highlighting UN Women's ongoing work to support women entrepreneurs across our region, and also the relevance of this South series. Angela, over to you. Happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Alonso. And thank you to all of our participants for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good night from wherever you're joining from. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. It's a delight to have participants joining us from Africa, the Caribbean, the Pacific, and beyond. It only lends to the richness of the exchange that can be held today and through this series. On behalf of the UN Women Multi-Country Office for the Caribbean, I would like to begin by saying thank you to our partners at CoLead and the interpretation team supporting us today. This partnership has been very, very rich. It's been a robust partnership, and it has been a robust exchange of information and knowledge that has taken place across this series. And I really do hope that the future lends itself to more exchanges of this nature, and for us to be able to dive even deeper into the relevance of these issues for our entrepreneurs across the world. Thank you very much also to our speakers who are joining us today, who will all be introduced to you, but representing from across the Caribbean as well as the African continent. Our sincere thanks for the information that you're going to share with us today. And I will leave the introduction of the speakers to the moderator. Again, sincere thanks to Jeremy and Nina from COLEAD, who have been assisting and working with us along the course of the last couple of years to help us come to where we're at through this series and what this series is ultimately doing. Today's session, as Jeremy highlighted, focuses on a topic that is absolutely central to the future of women-led entrepreneurs and enterprises across the world. How do we ensure that these enterprises and businesses are climate resilient? So what are the best climate resilient business models that we can seek to employ to ensure that the persons working in these very critical sectors have the greatest opportunity to rebound and rebuild and remain sustainable in the event of any external shocks, like the extreme climate shocks that we here in the Caribbean are experiencing with more frequency, with more intensity, and increasingly disruptive to our economies and communities. Climate change is real. As Jeremy highlighted, the metrics are there, the evidence is there. We are seeing it in real time. In the Caribbean, we knew that we have a hurricane season, as it were. From June to November, we have increased activity in the Atlantic with warmer waters, warmer temperatures, and the anticipation of tropical storms is always present. The past couple of years, we have seen an increased activity of tropical storms during this period and tropical storms hitting us with greater intensity. We have right now, we are undertaking efforts in Jamaica, one of the countries in our region that was hit last year by Hurricane Beryl, was hit again this year by Hurricane Melissa with an intense Category 5 hurricane. And one of our presenters today, Sandra McLeish, is from Jamaica. And I hope in her presentation, not only does she highlight the work that she's doing, but share a little bit about the vulnerability that they face with these repeated shocks, external shocks, which do not give them time to rebound. So what is the impact on our businesses, particularly in the agricultural sector? In St. Vincent and the Grenadines in 2021, the volcano La Soufriere, the eruption caused damages and losses to the equivalent of around 30% of the national GDP, with small and women-owned businesses amongst those hardest hit. This volcano and its eruption did not just impact St. Vincent, but it impacted neighboring islands. We here in Barbados experienced a greater deposit of ashfall than perhaps St. Vincent even did, because as the plume went up into the air, the winds blew it across the seas, and it was literally snowing ash in Barbados. We were undercover with ash. So the impact of these things have far-reaching implications, not just for the specific geographical space where it may occur, but for other geographical areas that may also be impacted by the climatic event or the natural disaster or whatever the extreme event was. So imagine those figures were quoted just for St. Vincent, but compound that with the impacts of the agricultural sector on Barbados, the women-led businesses in Barbados as well, and you see that there's a multiplier effect. At the same time, small island developing states across the Caribbean and Pacific are facing stronger hurricanes, coastal erosion, and disruptions to food systems. These impacts are not gender neutral. Women often have less access to land and financial resources. They face greater barriers to credit and to technology that would help them in the operationalization of their business. And they carry a disproportionate burden of unpaid care work, all of which limit their ability to prepare for, absorb, and recover from extreme weather events and external shocks. We have been doing some work to document exactly how this is impacting our region. Yet, despite these constraints, Women entrepreneurs are already at the forefront of climate adaptation. They are driving local food systems. They are participating in sustainable tourism models. They are community-based agriculture, circular economy initiatives, and green innovation within their communities. The challenge is not for a lack of ideas or leadership. It's ensuring that women-led businesses have the finance, the tools, the networks that they need to survive, to thrive, and to grow in a changing climate. Recognizing this, UN Women Multi-Country Office Caribbean, under the Build Back Equal program funded by the generosity of the Government of Canada, has been working with female entrepreneurs to strengthen business continuity and resilience. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for example, UN Women supported a 3-day business continuity planning training and toolkit for women-owned MSMEs, helping them to, one, identify and manage climate and disaster risks for their business. Secondly, to develop continuity plans to keep operating during and after a crisis. And thirdly, to protect jobs, incomes, and community services when disasters strike. Similar efforts are being expanded across other OECS countries, recognizing that continuity planning is not only a technical exercise, it's a core part of women's economic empowerment and local resilience. It is heartening to add that the private sector is also supporting business continuity development and planning and are working with other UN organizations such as UNDRR to expand this whole notion of business continuity planning across MSMEs. So there's support from the private sector through a recognition of the value of local-led businesses that are micro, small, and medium to our economies and trying to help them be more resilient in the current climate. The same Build Back Equal program is also what enables UN Women and co-lead South to South webinar series that brings us here today. Through this collaboration, women entrepreneurs and ecosystem partners across Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific and beyond can exchange practical strategies. We can learn from each other and build cross-regional partnerships around climate-smart and inclusive business models. I would really like to see some of what we have shared with us over the past this is now the sixth of these webinars in this series, be investigated in terms of how can some of the knowledge and learning really translate into practical solutions for women here in the Caribbean. And that's something that I would like us to explore in the next year with Co-Lead's partnership. As we move into the discussion, I would like to leave you today with one guiding question for today's session. How can women entrepreneurs not only survive climate disruptions and external shocks, but transform them into opportunities for innovation, market growth, and sustainable impact in their communities? With that, it is my pleasure to hand you back over to our moderator for today's session, Alonso from UN Women MCO, who will guide our panel conversation and the Q&A to follow. I wish you a good session. Alonso, over to you.
Thank you so much, Angela. We are going to try now to dig into all these topics. So today we are fortunate to have 4 women entrepreneurs from 4 different regions of the world, each representing a place deeply affected, as you were saying, as you know, by climate change. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Jamaica, Nigeria, and Malawi. These countries have faced hurricanes, floods, droughts, extreme heat, pests, crop loss, market instability, and a long list of climate-related pressures. As you know, women are disproportionately affected by climate change, yet they are also at the forefront of resilience, innovation, and community leadership. Before introducing our speakers, I would love to hear from all of you, from the people on the chat. So please share in the chat where you are joining us from and what climate-related risks or challenges your business or community is currently facing. This will help us to understand who is in the room, and I think it will enrich the conversation for everyone. So please, if you have a moment, chat with us and let us know. I would like to do a quick introduction of the panelists. Thokozani Amanda is the founder of Tac-Maz Sustainable Ventures. Sandra McLeish, who is the CEO of Agro Storage Limited in Jamaica. Dr. Emem, she's the founder of Emani Farms Giant in Nigeria. And Nisha Glasgow, she's Business Development Officer at the Center of Enterprises Development in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I would like to start by Thokozani. I am pleased to introduce you to her. She's a dynamic social entrepreneur and advocate for gender inclusion and environmental justice in Malawi. She is the founder, as I said, of Tac-Maz Sustainable Ventures, an eco-inclusive social enterprise, empowering more than, I think it is, 2,000 women farmers in horticulture and livestock value chains. Furthermore, Thokozani is also a writer, a multi-award-winning leader, and one of the top 100 women in agribusiness in Africa 2024. She brings a powerful perspective on climate resilience, grounded in community-driven solutions. So the floor is yours, Toko. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Good afternoon from Malawi. My name is Thokozani Amanda Timasula, and I am the founder for Tac-Maz Sustainable Ventures in Malawi. We are operating in 3 districts, Chiladzulu, Blantyre, and Choro. Tac-Maz Sustainable Ventures aims at promoting resilient food systems in Malawi, and we're hoping that in the next few years we'll also cross the borders into the region. Can you move to the next slide, please? Why Tac-Maz Sustainable Ventures? So Malawi is one of the countries in the world that continues to experience food insecurity every year. And of late, it has been rated 87th out of hunger index. And this is primarily due to out of 20 million Malawians go hungry each year, and 71% of the total food producer community is comprised of women. Yet women continue to face the harsh consequences of climate change more than their male counterparts, which is very ironic. About 140 million people are experiencing hunger in Africa, and about 345 million people are experiencing hunger globally as of 2023. Can you please move on to the next slide? So, next slide, please. Okay, so what is our solution? So, acknowledging the fact that women are mostly affected by the impacts of climate change, an average of 120 women. We empower women farmers with access to capacity building, sustainable agriculture of their off-takers. We are also doing sustainable livestock production because we understand that it complements the horticultural production, because we are pretty much practicing regenerative and sustainable agriculture. And at time, we've seen the need to now start value addition, which is a demand that came up from the horticultural value chains and the livestock value chains that we had started with. Can you please move on to the next slide? Slide, okay. So what are the challenges that we are facing? Number one is climate change impacts. Climate change impacts are very real. I'll give an example of what happened to us in 2023 March. We were faced by Cyclone Freddy, which made a landfall in Malawi, affecting most of the southern parts, most of the districts in southern part of Malawi, and our districts were not spared. During this time, we lost almost all the crops that we had propagated, and our farmers lost their livelihoods, and some of them even lost their lives. We are consistently are being affected by pests and diseases, and also rising cost of raw materials. And I'm sure that this is not just particular to Malawi, but maybe our case is a bit more worse because we are facing cases of devaluation almost every year, with the worst that happened last year, which was about 44%, that affected us a lot. We have unstable markets, which is related to the high to the currency instability. And also we have limited funding opportunities. So basically we've relied on organic growth over time. And also we are faced with limited access to advanced technology. So most of our work, we use manure when we are cultivating our crops, for example. Okay, so what are the working resilient models? So I've given you some of the challenges that we're facing, which are really bottlenecks to our growth and bottlenecks to our working with women farmers. And so in the next 2 slides, I'm going to share with you what is working in our models. Number 1 is diversification. So we believe in vertical growth. Like I've informed you earlier on, we started with just horticulture, but over time, we ventured into sustainable livestock production, so it could complement our efforts in horticulture. And now we've started value addition so that we can minimize post-harvest losses and also other challenges that come in with selling out and processed goods. The other model that is working is what we calling inclusive models. Here we are not just working with women farmers, but we are also reaching out to young people in schools. So with the young people, we are trying to nurture them to be champions in coming up with climate change solutions in their communities, so that by the end of the day, they are able to support their sisters, their mothers, and their aunties so that they can achieve high productivity. And also, we are working in partnership with other organizations where we are supporting with incubation services to young people. We are training them in sustainable horticulture and sustainable livestock production. We are also into... The slide can't be seen. We are also into working with knowledge sharing, where we're building capacity of the farmers. So with the farmers, we plan and deliver very much contextualized and tailor-made capacity building sessions. Like you can see here, we offer on-farm capacity building, and we are also trying to teach them some over. Next slide, please. Supporting women farmers to cultivate manure where they are able to turn into organic fertilizer for their crops. Next slide, please. Okay, so we are also using responsive approaches where we don't take a one-size-fits-all approach. For instance, we work with women from Choro, Blantyre, and Choro, and we understand that they have different needs. So we tailor-make our models to respond to the particular needs that the women have, depending on the challenges that they are meeting, they are facing. We are also using collaboration. For instance, we've partnered with COLEAD. COLEAD is one of our main partners. They really build our capacity in sustainable horticultural production, and they are behind our growth into diversification of value-added products. We are also very much climate responsive, so we mainstream climate responsive programming. Much as our practices are pretty much responsive to climate change, but we take a step further. For instance, we have a restoration program where we are supporting our communities in tree planting, and also we do water harvesting at our facilities, and we also use renewable energy for irrigation. Overall, we are following human rights-based approaches where throughout we look at the current needs of our women, and also by the end of the day, we are trying to promote their rights and also to improve gender programming in all that we do, and also among the partners that we're working with. Next slide, please. Okay, so with our resilient models, this is what we've managed to achieve to date. By this time, we have reached out to 2,000 plus women in the 3 districts in both livestock and horticultural value chains. We have reached about 17,500 students with climate change initiatives like restoration, message development, and basic agronomic practices. We have developed an agile business strategy that is very adaptive to situations, learning from what happened to us during the Cyclone Freddy situation. We have also expanded to 3 districts, like I've already said. And we are also promoting mindset change for our outgrower farmers, where they are now seeing potential in growing other high-value crops, which can be exported, because initially they used to grow a lot of maize because maize is Malawi's type of food, and that's what they believed in. But now they are now able to grow other crops which have potential to be exported. And we also have strengthened collaboration with community, district, national, regional, and international partners. We are not working alone. We are also working with the district partners. We are working with the government of Malawi, and we are working with some regional and international partners who are supporting our work. Next slide. Okay, so what does the future look for us? So as we grow and diversify, we would like to finish constructing our pack house and processing units by December 2025. We started it 2 years ago, and we are making progress, and we hope by December, by the end of December, we'll have it finished. We would like to finish constructing our offtake warehouses in Chore Zulu by April 2026, because we have increased the number of farmers that we're working with who need a bigger facility so we can use it as a warehouse as we offtake products from the farmers. We also would like to export our products by December 2026. We are hoping that with the support of COLEAD, we'll be able to have the necessary skills so that we are able to meet the HACCP and Global Gap standards and be able to start exporting our products by end of next year. And also, we would like to reach out to 5,000 farmers by the year 2028. And we would like to scale production from an average of 300 tons a year to 2,500 by December 2028. And we hope we'll be able to achieve this because we are consistently increasing the number of women farmers that we are working with. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Toko, for your presentation. We are going now with the next panelist, to Sandra McLeish. She is from Jamaica. Jamaica, unfortunately, has been recently impacted by Hurricane Melissa, so we will be maybe pointing this, Sandra. I am proud to introduce Sandra. She is the CEO of Agro Storage Limited and Sankhard company. Sandra is a pioneer in solar-powered cold chain innovation, reducing post-harvest losses, stabilizing farmers' incomes, and opening new export pathways as well. She's also vice president of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, and she is working daily to support women farmers who face barriers such as limited land ownership, high energy costs, or vulnerability to market and climate shocks. So thank you so much, Sandra. The floor is yours. Welcome to the session.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here amongst such amazing women who are doing fantastic things all over the world, and I'm really pleased to be counted amongst you. So thank you as well, COLEAD and UN Women, for this opportunity. Next slide, please. So as Alonso just mentioned, I have a little bit of a background in this area of being a farmer myself. I actually ran for several years a farm out of Portland, which is on the eastern side of Jamaica, 25 acres. I actually started out as a coffee farmer. I'm an avid lover of coffee, but I also had the opportunity to plant other things, and that kind of was my second generation foray into farming because I grew up as a farmer's daughter. So, as was mentioned earlier, I own and operate Sankhard Company Limited, which has a Springvale brand of agro products. We started out with salad dressings and vinaigrettes, and we now have approximately 60 value-added products. But one of the issues that we had is the inconsistent supply of raw material. And in doing some investigations, I found out the reason for that. And that led to the formation of Agro Cold Storage Limited. It's a solar powered cold chain network. And we actually have started this as of last year. It's brand new, but we're building on the experiences we've had before. My passion, I really consider myself to be a nation builder, nation server. And as just to mention, I come with 30 odd years of experience in agriculture and just dealing with improving the life and welfare of women across Jamaica and in the Caribbean. I also serve on the board of the National Council on Education, which essentially is like the board of the Ministry of Education. And a little known fact about me, I'm also a pastor. Next slide, please. So, this is a picture that we're all familiar with. I don't need to repeat what has already been said before, but allow me to set the stage, especially as it pertains to Jamaica. Jamaica recently experienced one of the most devastating hurricanes to ever hit this region. It was a category 5 actually. It was coming in at 185 miles per hour. It is like one of those Formula One race cars. That's the kind of power and speed that it came with. And the challenge here is that it came to the part of Jamaica, which is known as our breadbasket. It hit the western and southern area of Jamaica. So we're talking about of our 14 parishes, it hit about 5 of our parishes. Devastated houses, totally removed trees and all of the production that was taking part in that part of Jamaica. Why is it significant? Because last year, June, July, we experienced Hurricane Beryl, as Angela mentioned, and that resulted in 32 billion US dollars worth of damage. That was 1.1% of our GDP. And within 3 months, we experienced 2 weeks of significant rains in September, which again resulted in 600 million US dollars, nearly $1 billion in damage, similar parts of the country. And the government came and was very determined. And this year we bounced back, not completely, but we were bouncing back. And then in September of this year, this is what happened, Hurricane Melissa. The result is year after year, for the last 2 years for us, we've experienced significant damage to our infrastructure and to our agriculture sector. And women, I want to highlight this. I know I'm speaking to the converted, but allow me to share that women continue to be impacted disproportionately. We have a higher unpaid care burden. We have limited land ownership. The data, I have a little bit of a challenge with this because the data shows that approximately 40% of all the farmers in Jamaica are women. But really what tends to happen, and this is because of our cultural reality, is that a researcher may come on board and to a farm and comes to interview. And it is really her husband or the man who is present who ends up, for her security as well as other reasons, who ends up being the one that the researcher speaks to. So I actually think the data is much higher in terms of the amount of women farmers in Jamaica. But we know from the data as well that we only own 10% of the land. So that means that at any time you can be displaced when essentially the owner of that property comes on board. It limits us in the kind of infrastructure we want to invest in on a property that don't belong to us. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned before, the impact has been significant for us, and especially for women-owned businesses. We have challenges with regards to post-harvest loss. This is standard, I hear, for the Caribbean, but I am challenged by it because as an agro processor, when I go into the field and I negotiate with a farmer to purchase their produce, I have to plan for anywhere from 30 to 40% loss as a result of post-harvesting techniques. This is because of lack of irrigation and some of the basics that are needed on the farm. This is because of lack of cold storage to actually store the produce when they harvest it. So when I negotiate with a farmer, for example, to take one of the produce that I use a lot of, which is pumpkin, and I buy, for argument's sake, 15,000 pounds of pumpkin, they're not going to harvest that in one day. It's going to be harvested over a period of days. And they're not going to call me until they're ready. And when they call me, I have to then take a vehicle to go and collect it. And by the time I collect it, go on roads that really don't exist, and then come back to the factory, I have also experienced significant loss. If I'm able to capture that, to see what is going on with the produce in the field, I can reject it there. But a lot of the times I don't see that produce have started going bad until they actually reach me at the factory. So I am suffering loss and the farmers are suffering loss. Supply chain, especially in a situation like now where we've had back-to-back hurricanes 2 years in a row, price vulnerability is real. We have seen within a few days of Hurricane Melissa, the prices of things, basic commodities, skyrocketed, even though the public sector spoke out against it and said you must not do any price gouging and you must not be raising your prices. But the reality is, it's the reality of economics. There is more demand than supply, and so the prices go up. Next slide, please. So what happened from us is that from last year, when we saw what was happening, and even prior to the hurricane, because of the challenges I just shared with you as an agro processor doing this now for about 12 years, we saw that we cannot scale as a business if we have inconsistent supply of raw material. So this idea of having cold storage and managing the logistical network to make sure that when we collect the produce in the field, they go into reefer trucks, they go into storage, and they're able to be stored until they're used, as well as taking advantage of when there's a glut on the market and putting that produce down safely and securely so that we can manufacture it over time and then get the best prices for it. It resulted in the Agro Cold Storage Limited. We affectionately refer to this as ACSL. And women are at the beginning, the middle, and the end of ACSL. ACSL is creating a cold storage, sustainable cold storage and logistical solution for the Jamaican agricultural sector. And I quickly want to say here that this model is something that we are going to be replicating across the Caribbean, God's willing. The vision here is to reduce post-harvest losses, empower local communities, particularly women, and build climate resiliency. I do a lot of training to farmers all across the country. Last year alone, I trained over 400 farmers. 70% of them were women. This year so far, I've done an additional 200. And I am passionate about supporting women, as we've shared already. When you empower women, you empower the community. Women, a lot of the times, are the ones with the solutions, but we need to have that boldness in order to insist that the vision we have and the solutions we see are actually implemented. So the vision I have for agro cold storage, that we will deliver reliable and consistent tech-enabled cold chain ecosystem, which is storage and logistical solutions, and supporting food security. Next slide, please. I'm unapologetic about the fact that 80% of everyone who works for me and benefits, as well as persons who I engage with as my vendors, they must be women. The vision I have, again, as I mentioned, is that we are taking crops that come in glut, storing them, and ensuring that we have them ready for production as we need it. Last year, for example, with Hurricane Beryl hit at mango season. We never got a lot of notice. And it was heart-rendering the day after Hurricane Beryl when you drove on the roads and you saw the waste of mangoes on the roads. We don't want to ever have that again. We want to ensure that we have cold storage solutions all across Jamaica to attend to our farmers very quickly. This will result in higher value-added crops, more sustainable farm-to-market pathways, particularly for rural women. There's a community, for example, in Jamaica, in St. Mary, where I am from, that they have a particular mango called long mango. It's beautiful, it's small, but the point of it is that the flavor of it is very unique. And that entire community waits the year for that mango to come and be ready for harvesting. And that is what those farmers, especially those women, rely on to take care of them for the rest of the year. It actually happens. It still happens. And when you have a devastation like a hurricane that just completely takes everything from the little mangoes beginning to blossom off the trees, you are talking about a year of a setback for our community. So we need to be very proactive. And one of the things we want to do in Axel is put up 30 cold storage units all across Jamaica. And 20% of them, which is 6 of them, will also have agro processing capabilities. So what you see here on the picture is something that we anticipate is going to be happening real. And we want to be completely off the grid. The reason being, if you're off the grid, then you don't have to be worrying about who pays that light bill at the end of the day. Also, it means that we're taking advantage of what we have year-round, which is sunshine. And in the evenings, we're going to be using batteries to operate the cold storage. So there's consistency in the temperatures, which is also very important when you want to preserve the integrity of your fruits and vegetables. Next slide, please. So women entrepreneur strategies that we've engaged is to ensure that we diversify our products. We're working with farmers that not only do one thing, but several other produce so that we can take advantage of what grows best in their community, as well as what they've traditionally been growing, as well as changing sometimes it's the mindset to look for more climate resistant, climate hardy products. We want to engage them in using renewable energy. So we have identified women who are farmers, who farm part-time, who are willing to learn about cold storage and learn about using and installing solar panels, learning about circular economy. So when we have those agro-processing sites on the farm and they bring their produce and we have to clean them and we have to prepare the fruits and vegetables for processing, the byproducts of that we immediately put into our circular economy section of our business so that they go into composting. We're going to be using rainwater harvesting, and the same compost that is used from our agro-processing sites goes straight back into the farmers. So they get to use the composting as fertilizers, and they get a preferential rate than anyone else who comes to purchase it. I want to also highlight the importance of the digital transformation and the mindset, the paradigm shift that we're trying to have here in Jamaica, especially for female farmers. A lot of us are afraid of technology and we're afraid of numbers. And those are two things that right now, if you have anything resembling a business, you have to embrace and tell yourself you're going to fall in love with numbers and technology. You cannot run away from it anymore in order to be viable. When you have a business model, you have one of two things you can do. You can either be very close to your ports, especially if you're exporting, so you're close to your market, or you can be close to your raw material. When we started out, we started out being close to our market. So we had our businesses in Kingston, warehouse in Kingston, our offices, our factory space was in Kingston. The direction we're going in now is that we're bringing our business closer to our raw material, which is our farmers. So we want to be able to show our farmers in real time, this is how you can use technology. This is how renewable energy can be used to support your business so that their mindset starts to be changed. We also want to encourage them in cooperatives, that there is a sharing that takes place. So there's the purchasing power that they have when they come together. So when we need to purchase things to support their business, we're doing it as a collective and not individually. And of course, you must plan for this from the beginning. So your farms need to already be thinking about climate smart business models. You need to be deliberate from the beginning. There is a fantastic example in Peru that I love, where from they started out doing a project that dealt with climate change and agriculture, they ensured that they brought the end users in from the beginning and they trained them. So they didn't train them afterward. They trained them from the beginning so that they could give informed decisions. They could make informed decisions and they could contribute in a meaningful way to the discussions and the formations of the project. And that is one of the things I want to do. We have partnered, next slide, please, with 30, apologies, we have actually partnered with 10 of the agricultural parks across Jamaica. And we are going to be putting up our 30 units on those 10 sites across Jamaica. And we have a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Agriculture through AIC in order for us to be able to utilize a small portion of their lands in order to put up our units. So I wanted to just highlight here again that one of the challenges that we've had traditionally, and we're deliberately being proactive in dealing with it, is the issue of financing. So we've had to have strategic partnerships that don't require financing. As I mentioned with Agro cold storage, we partnered with the Ministry of Agriculture. So we're not asking for resources, we're asking for land. And we've been successful with negotiating for that. We are going to start out in a phased way with 5 units being put up in Jamaica. And I'm trying to limit going into any of the more traditional sources of financing. We've actually been able to negotiate with Development Bank of Jamaica and some other sources at this end to get funding that is earmarked for women, renewable energy, and especially food security. I can share my own experience of going in for financing for my agro-processing business and literally being told by the banker, where is your husband? Is your husband not coming to co-sign this loan with you? I never forgot that. And it's something that really allowed me to be very deliberate in saying that we must have the solutions for ourselves. Next slide, please. I also wanted to, as we transition to the other slide, to share that the data is very important for us to have accurate data to justify why we're being proactive towards women. Worldwide, women actually own 40% of all the businesses. That's the latest data that I have. So of all the businesses that can be owned in the world, women are 40% owned. Women own 40% of them. But a lot of us don't realize that when it comes to public contracts, men get 99% of all the contracts that are given from government. Women only get 1%. That is unacceptable. And so whenever a person say, why are you so focused on women, Sandra? It was actually you and women who taught me this. It was actually when I went to other countries and saw that persons were being deliberate in engaging with women that gave me the boldness to say, no, I'm going to do this because this is really what will change the flavor, the texture, and the sustainability of a community is when you engage women. And so one of the things I encourage with other women who are business owners, find out in your own countries what the public procurement requirements are for you to be able to be listed as a supplier of services and goods to your government, because the government in any country is the largest employer. And they won't allow you to get a contract unless you fulfill certain requirements. And so I am encouraging us that we must be proactive and seek out these opportunities, because if we don't do that, we're going to constantly be left out. Be deliberate in your capacity development. That's one of the things that we're doing with Axel. We are choosing a category of ladies. Approximately 20% of the women that we're working with come from a group that one of our trainers referred to as Punchy. Punchy is a lady who has probably had 3 or 4 children. She never finished high school. Her profile is one of someone who is probably on her 3rd or 4th partner. And she has limited access to resources and even more limited opportunities for upward mobility. We're being very deliberate in targeting those women for capacity development. And so it means that you cannot have your training sessions early in the morning or late in the evening, because early in the morning, she's getting kids ready for school, and in the evening, she's preparing her meals. So we have deliberately targeted the time of the day and how we work with the women so that they can be empowered. It is something that you have to plan. It doesn't happen by accident. And in so doing, we will be able to have that empirical evidence to show the difference and the paradigm shift we're making in the communities that we're working with. So again, I want to highlight number 5, meaningful PPPs, which is meaningful public-private partnerships. You have to be deliberate about it. Next slide, please. So what are some of the opportunities? As we highlighted before, climate smart processing, technical transfer, technology transfer is what we are doing. We're ensuring that we bring the latest technology, traceability, which is something that is very important. If you're thinking of scaling and exporting, you have to be able to trace where the raw material of everything that goes into a bottle comes from. So as we build out our agro cold storage units, and as we build out the agro processing that will be taking place on the farm using renewable energy, using the green economy, and definitely rainwater harvesting and composting, etc., we're making sure that we put in immediately the customer management system and the technology and training our employees to understand how this impacts your business overall. The training, again, is very important, and to change that mindset of especially our ladies, that if this is not a man's job, you can do this. And there's nothing that will stop you or should stop you from going up on that roof and be able to deal with that solar panel and be able to troubleshoot when things happen. And so we've partnered with persons who can supply some of those technology that we need in order that we can stay in one place and keep track of what is happening in our network of 30 cold storage units all across the country. Next slide, please. So my last slide is really a call to action. We cannot be passive observers anymore of what happens. A woman is not just somebody who is supposed to be subservient and a doormat. Allow me, please, to just share one of the things that I'm passionate about is the guidance that we have in one of my favorite scriptures, which is Proverbs 31, which is that we are businesswomen. We consider a field and buy it. We trade with merchants from afar. We need to be proactive in how we engage with government. It's not a bad word. We need to be proactive in how we engage with our parliamentarians, the decision makers and the gatekeepers. We need to be the ones who create that community that gives us a framework that we can work in. So my vision is to create a dedicated gender and climate finance facility in Jamaica that taps into grants, taps into flexible financing, and that creates that ecosystem so that we can grow and provide food security, not only in Jamaica, but in the rest of the Caribbean. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for your inspiring presentation. I think I'm not the only one in the room that has been inspired by you today. And thanks for the impacting work you are conducting in Jamaica. Please don't hesitate on asking questions to Sandra, but also to Amanda. You are doing it. Now we are gonna introduce our third panelist. Her name is Dr. Emem. Emem is the founder of Emani Farms Giant and the End of Hunger Humanitarian Initiative in Nigeria. Dr. Emem transforms climate risks into opportunities through solutions such as, if I'm not wrong, hydroponics, aquaponics, solar-powered dryers, and cooperative-based market access. She is a powerful advocate for women farmers, highlighting the critical need for climate finance, childcare support, and gender-responsive policies. So we have Dr. MM here today, and the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Alonso. Thank you, and this is good afternoon from this part of Nigeria. I want to thank the panelists. I enjoyed the session so far, and I'm very privileged and thankful to be part of this very important conversation. You know, for many of us working directly with farmers, climate change is no longer a topic for conferences alone. It's something we see, it's something we feel, and it's something we experience on the land every single day. Yeah, so I am an agribusiness entrepreneur, humanitarian leader, championing for climate resilient food systems and women economic empowerment. As a CEO of Emani Farms Giant Limited, I pioneer hydroponic and aquaponic crop production, where we produce high quality vegetables with 80% less water while creating dignified jobs for women and the youth. And through my foundation, which I'm also chairing, the End Hunger Humanitarian Initiative, I've been able to lead community-based programs that has fed and trained over 2,500 women and families, linking smallholders, farmers, women cooks, and school children to a sustainable nutrition ecosystem. So let's talk about climate impact. The numbers are actually sobering, and we have rainfall irregularity, which has reduced smallholder yields to about 20 to 35%. We have heat waves, which has cost up to about 18% losses. There've been severe flooding, like what we have had this year, the Mokwa flood, which has submerged homes, destroyed infrastructure, washed away farms, and reportedly killed hundreds. Now, in 2024, we had a collapse of a dam in the northeast part of the country, which displaced a large number of residents, undermining livelihood. So flooding is not a sporadic phenomenon here in Nigeria. It is what we're used to, seasonal flooding. And the consequence of this is that there is widespread displacement, destruction of farmlands, and risks to lives, and where sanitation and shelter are compromised, public health issues, waterborne diseases, and all of that. One thing I love about, can we go on to the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Okay, so Women adaptation and climate smart innovation. One thing I love about our African women is if you give us a challenge, we will innovate it in our own way. At Emani Farm Giants Limited, we've been able to put up a standard hydroponic and aquaponic farm, which gives us about 3 to 5 times the yield of soy farming. And with this, we're able to have a year-round production despite the climate challenges with about 80% less water. And now we've been able to integrate a solar system into our production, which has reduced our cost for energy monthly to about 30 to 45%. And aside from that, we've had diversification. Apart from hydroponic crop production, we also produce livestock feeds and we also export agro produce. Next slide, please. Overcoming gender barriers. We must be honest. Women are innovating in spite of every strong structural barriers. Now, only about 10 to 12% of rural women, according to data in Nigeria, have formal access to land. From Akwa Ibom, where I'm from, you as a woman does not have access to land. You don't even inherit land. So you have women that are willing to farm, but they don't have access to land. Women also spend about 3 to 5 hours daily on unpaid care work. They take care of the kids, they take them to school, they cook, they clean up, and they are not paid for all of this. These women do not have the opportunity to actually come out and do something. It's not that they are lazy. I keep telling people, women are not begging for a seat at the table. We can also build our table. Just give us that trust, give us the resources, and you see us do that. And a woman once told me in one of our workshops, and she said, I'm farming on hope. The land is not mine, but the responsibility at home is mine. So this is what we are faced with in Nigeria, in Africa, I think. So our story is not unique. So at Emani Farms Giant, we had to look at an approach on how to tailor our trainings, our workshop with the women in a way that looking at their family background and what they go through at home, we've been able to increase participation in our training. When we aligned our sessions with their school runs, we made it in a way that women are able to, come up to us and tell us, okay, this is the time I'll be able to have trainings, and we try to fix them up. And there's been great participation. And as well as we also noticed that there's been increased confidence, because when you empower a woman, the woman becomes confident. These are women that cannot even speak English. These are women that do not hold the remote control in their homes. And we tell them, okay, go out, get empowered, do all of that. We do all of the mentoring talk. And when you do that, I look at those women. Who do they talk to? Can they walk up to a bank and actually fill a loan form? No. They can't do that. They can't. Most of the women in my rural communities are timid. They cannot talk to people. But I noticed that when they attend our workshops, we train them on hydroponics, aquaponics. We train them on other agri businesses, processing, and all of that. These women over time gain confidence in themselves, and that is what really drives me. And when Women Agripreneur Hub supports over 100 women every year with our training, with our mentorship, with market access, because I believe it is one thing to train a woman, is another thing on agribusiness, another thing to mentor her, because you train them, you teach them about these things, and they go back home. And most times they don't do anything with it, if you want to look at it from that point. So what we do at Emani Farms Giant Limited is that we don't only train them, we help them start up their enterprise. We help them source for fundings to start it up. And when they start up, we don't leave them there. We mentor them, we encourage them, we give them the technical support. And it doesn't stop there. After harvest, most of these women don't even know how to access markets for their produce. And that's why you have lots of losses. Like I tell people, it's not the problem we have in Africa, the problem we have in Nigeria, it's not because we cannot produce crops or food. The problem we have is storage, just like the last speaker said. The problem we have is storing our produce after harvest. So what we do, because we are a larger company, we are able to get offtake from these women we've empowered at harvest and also give it out to our off-takers, which most often than not, we are even finding it difficult to meet up to the demands. This way, the women are able to sell. The women are able to, they are proud of themselves because now they're generating income. And we're able to, from the loans we give to them, we simply charge back from the harvest they make. So they are making money, they are paying their loans at ease, and they are gaining confidence in themselves and also assessing the market and networking. Next slide, please. Okay, so as much as I love sustainability, I also believe that for any enterprise to be sustainable, it must be profitable. And that is why when people come to me and they're like, hydroponics is actually difficult and is expensive, I tell them ignorance is what is expensive. This is what climate system have done for us. With hydroponics, we've been able to reduce our usage of water to about 80%, which is a good one. And our use of pesticide has also dropped from about 50 to 65%. Production losses has dropped from 28% to about 8%, and we are able to produce year round. So I believe this is more profitable for me and for Emani Farms Giant Limited. So when people tell me, is climate smart agriculture profitable? I tell them, come and visit Emani Farms. So let's move on to the next slide. So financing, what actually works? Like I said, we often encourage women to start agribusiness, mentor them and all of that. But the question is, can they afford to start? That is the clause. Can these rural women they don't even have money to take care of their kids, can they actually start a business, a profitable business? And because motivation is powerful, I also understand that motivation cannot buy equipment. Motivation cannot buy the input they need to start. And that is why Emani Farms Giants Limited, after mentoring these women, we also help them with the starter hydroponic kits, which isn't much. I believe for a woman to start, for you to empower a woman, it doesn't have to be something very big. As long as she's willing, as long as she is ready to start, you start her up with something little. And we're able to, raise microloans from some microfinance banks that we collaborate with, and as well as cooperative revolving funds. And blending the repayment in a way that it's easy for those women, just like I said, from their crops, they could pay, from the sales of the crops too. So it's easier for them to do this business. Women do not need charity. What they need is a financial system that believes in their potential. Next slide, please. So support system that can transform women. At Emani Farms Giant, we believe that the right support can turn a struggling farmer into a thriving agripreneur. And we have seen that our training, mentorship, incubation, the skill building programs which we carry out has been able to increase participation and yield from about 30 to 50%. Through our mentorship, we've been able to raise business survivors because we don't just empower the women, like I said, we also make sure we follow them up to the point of harvest. And this has ensured that their business survives. And also we've been able to link them up to markets, which is good because they are not wasting their produce at the end of the day. So I believe that platforms like the UN Women and the COLEAD would help us foster more collaboration. Next slide, please. Okay, so when I first interacted with women agripreneurs in the Caribbean, I felt instantly at home because looking at it, we have almost the same climate, the same resilience, the same entrepreneurial fire. And I believe with collaboration, we could, create something beautiful, like trainings like what we have on right now. We've been able to deliver virtual trainings at about 60% lower cost, and people can come in and learn. And also, we've been able to increase women's value chain participation because there are so many women on this, but I believe when they go back, they are going to look at it and they would want to they'll be inspired to start up something. The next slide, please. The one big action, my call to action is, if I could recommend one catalytic action today, it would be to establish a women's climate resilient agripreneur fund in Nigeria. With this fund, we will be able to support over 1,000 women, and we're looking at increasing our income annually, and also reduce the operating cost by about 40%. We're also looking at increasing value-added income by prioritizing women access to climate finance and agri-tech. Women should also be included in terms of the solar panel system. We've been able to have a fully automated solar power system in our facility, and I believe women should not just be at the farm, they should also be technicians. They should be involved in also installing these panels, installing the hydroponic system. So these are things we're looking at. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'll end it here. And I want to say the vision for Emani Farms Giant Limited is that we're looking at scaling hydroponic crop production in Nigeria so that women can all grow their food all through the year, irrespective of the weather condition. Our goal is to build Nigeria's largest network of climate smart farms. We are also moving into the solar farm so that we could stay productive even when the grid doesn't. And then through our Women Agripreneur Hub, we'll look at empowering 1,000 women in climate smart agribusiness. We are also expanding our livestock feed processing plants, which is the Giant Feed, which is our brand name, to help farmers raise healthier livestock despite the heat stress. Our future is digital farming. We're looking at integrating digital farming, AI monitoring, and data-driven production. Our long-term vision is simple: sustainable farming, empowered women, and resilient communities. So I'll be stopping here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emem, and thank you so much for highlighting which are the challenges, barriers, and also how do you envision the future of business resilient models. It's very clarifying, and I hope will be responding to some questions after the next presentation.
Sorry, just a quick intervention.
Yes.
Interpreter, I believe you're speaking on the English channel. Sorry. Continue, Alonso, sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Awara. Thank you so much. I would like to introduce now to our last panelist. So last but not least, welcome to Nisha Glasgow. She's from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She's our final speaker. She's working as a business development officer at the Center for Enterprises Development to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She has 18 years of experience supporting small and medium enterprises. She specializes in business diagnosis, continuity planning, and climate resilient business strategies. Nisha works closely with women entrepreneurs facing multiple shocks, from volcanic eruptions to hurricanes, trying to help them to build practical solutions for sustainability and resilience. So, Nisha, welcome to our room. The floor is yours.
Good morning, and thank you very much. I'm honored to join this conversation, this important conversation on climate resilient business models for women entrepreneurs, a topic that I believe is not only timely, but deeply personal for many of us working across the Caribbean with entrepreneurs, with women-led entrepreneurs. I sat here and I have listened to these ladies, these speakers before me, and realized that we have basically the same issues, whether we are dealing with the Caribbean, whether we are dealing with Africa and beyond. And I agree with Ms. Sandra that to say that we have to be more proactive and embrace business practices that prepared our business for our businesses further. I want to take this opportunity to say as well that I have looked at this presentation from the standpoint of working with small, micro and small medium enterprises to navigate the climate changes that we have been experiencing here, especially in the Caribbean and especially at the southern end. From the southern end, which I have noticed most of the time, major storms like hurricanes and floods and earthquakes have been affecting us and affecting our businesses more frequently now more than ever. We are now experiencing category 4 and 5 storms from the southern end of the Caribbean region, and flooding and rainfall that has been affecting especially some of our Caribbean brothers and sisters that are not accustomed to these kind of climate change activities. And they have indeed been affecting how our businesses function and how they come together to find solutions. And again, we also realize from a business development standpoint that a lot of these businesses that are affected, especially in the agriculture sector or the productive sector, as we would like to say, are really more than 80%, or probably a little bit more than that, in women-led businesses. And these have implications on our economies. And, we realize that we have frequent floods, drought, family matters now, volcanic eruptions, especially in St. Vincent 2001. Thank God we didn't lose lives, but a lot of our businesses, our land, we are now in 2025, and we are seeing, especially from 2019, that our land is still trying to recoup and to recover from that volcanic eruption. Growing up, I was told by my grandparents that the last eruption that we had before the 2019 gave us soil, so our soil became more fertile, and the years after we saw improved production in a lot of our food that we produce. But this time around, it was just not like that. We actually saw a drop in production. We saw a increase in prices, and Miss Sandra mentioned that very much in her products presentation, especially after Hurricane Melissa crossed Jamaica. And these are things that, from a business standpoint, we have taken into consideration. We are also seeing agro processes facing spoilage. Transportation has become a big issue across the thing, because of the fact that our rivers play a major, especially in St. Vincent, our rivers are playing a major issue in terms of what is happening to us from a climate change. Farmers are experiencing transportation delays because our rivers are overflowing their banks, they're overflowing roads, bridges, and this means that we cannot access our farms, we cannot access our businesses, especially from an agro processing or agro farmer standpoint. And input shortages. I work with a lot of agro processors, and every day I would get calls. Nisha, do you know of where I can get? And I take the point that Ms. Sandra is saying very much, and all the other speakers before me, in terms of storage and how we implement these little things into our climate smart business models going forward. Next slide, please. And so while we transition, let's talk a little bit of how these women entrepreneurs are adapting to some of these things that I've outlined. We're noticing that it is now becoming more localized in terms of how these entrepreneurs are adapting and diversifying for resilience. So we are now shifting to local supply chains to reduce dependency and transportation risks, and we are diversifying products to meet changing markets and climate conditions. I work with farmers who have so much in terms of on their farm glut, and I am now encouraged. We have worked and introduced women empowerment projects where we train women in different areas, from record keeping to customer service to accessing market, to basic, basic capacity building training for some of them. And we realize that we offer a little bit of mentorship. There's a mentorship period that comes along with the training, and also we give you something like a seed fund. And I've seen women taking up these opportunities and are now saying to me, we are now moving into agro processing, where we can utilize what we have on the farms to make juice, to make jams, to make jellies, and and moving beyond this. So we are seeing products have your diversification in terms of what is being offered by some of these entrepreneurs, coming out of some of these climate smart initiatives that we have introduced into the different sectors that we work with. We're looking at leveraging low-cost climate-smart tools. Here now we are looking at embracing technology and embracing digital transformation. So we have been introducing through an OAS project that we looked at women-led businesses and introducing them to the whole concept of digital transformation and how they can introduce that into their business practices, and especially from climate smart perspective. So we are now selling the idea of business WhatsApp and to reach customers directly and to reduce overheads, and how do we deal with, we look at packaging and accessing different markets and all these things. So we have been looking at, how we can embrace different climate smart tools and making them at low cost as possible, so that these women can embrace them and actually change how they do business and look more now, embrace climate smart business strategies or practices. One of the things that we have been looking at and that we have been pushing is the whole idea of building collective strength. Cooperatives, we have looked at cooperatives. We have also looked at value chain clusters that we are working. So we have some value chain clusters on the ground that we are working with in terms of agro processing. So they do joint marketing. They have been able to utilize WhatsApp and other communication networks to share what is happening to them in terms of the climate change standpoint. They use these platforms as well to learn and to share knowledge and to gather knowledge, and also to source suppliers. And that is something that we realize that. So we have been facilitating that kind of dialogue, that kind of tool to allow collective strength building among these women-led enterprises. We have looked at logistics. We have shared the importance of networking from transportation and improving market access. There is a big drive now towards backyard production and how we can use that to build collective strength in our communities, to navigate the whole issue of climate change, and how that work and how that facilitates development into climate smart models in terms of businesses. Next slide. Right, thank you. Climate smart resilient enterprises. What do we look for? How can we support women-led businesses? And one of the things that we have looked at is grants. The organization that I work with, grants normally flow through the organization. So women-led businesses, as I said, we work with about 80%. Probably a little bit more than that in terms of agriculture-based women-led businesses, and they have access through us and through other vehicles for grants and microfinancing and revolving funds. We tend to be that catalyst or that bridge that would allow the woman to actually meet the other end of the spectrum. So a lady that probably would like to engage in hydroponics, through one of the clusters that agro-processing cluster that we are working with on the ground, they were able to help assist the organization of women-led businesses that are from the tourism sector, who that time when tourism is at the fall off, as we say, they now they shift their focus from tourism to agro processing and agriculture. And we have been able to facilitate that kind of dialogue, that kind of work, where we access grants that allow these ladies that are in the tourism sector to learn from the ladies that are in the full agro processing sector and facilitate a facility that embrace both vertical farming and hydroponics. Unfortunately, when Beryl hit us last year, that whole facility was destroyed. And we are still in the process. We are now in the process of seeing how best we can work with them through another additional program that is being targeted to women-led businesses to help them to bounce back. So what is happening in this particular program is that you receive training and then you go through a coaching process for about 6 months, and then we take you beyond that to actually getting the system back up and running. So that is what we have been looking at in terms of helping some of these women-led things. And then we have other grants and innovative climate smart upgrades that are going on. And then one of the things that we are now rolling out another climate smart project to help groups this time, and especially women-led groups and underserved communities through another organization that we are looking. And then one of the things that we realize that we need to blend finance. We need to blend finance, bring finance together, because sometimes the finance that we have to execute some of these projects are not enough. The impact that we want would not be achieved in the space of time or with the funds that are available. So we realize that it's important for us to bring in the private sector. It's also important for us to have other conversation with other grants that are out there, so that at the end of the day, these ladies have the opportunity to change or adapt to what is happening to them in terms of climate smart, of climate change related issues and challenges that they are facing. Next slide, please. While we wait for the transition of the slide, because we understand of the delay, we are looking at support systems that make a difference. So what is happening? From our standpoint, we believe that sector-based workshops sparks peer learning and collaboration. We have seen the power of peer learning, bringing persons together in a safe space. And that is one of the things that we have been working on, creating safe spaces, whether face-to-face or from a digital transformation standpoint, where these spaces allow women to share. They allow women to learn. They allow women to understand what is happening to other women-led businesses and incorporate some of these things into their own businesses. They learn the mistakes. They learn the champions, and we have seen the power of what peer learning and collaboration, especially if we make it sector based. So we tend to do inclusive workshops, but at times, especially when we're looking at climate change and resilience, we realize that it's important. We completed a business continuity workshop for about 3 days on business continuity and planning, and how that affected businesses, especially those in the Grenadines. Because when Beryl came, they took the blunt of what happened to Beryl. Walked through these islands like a tornado. And having worked in these islands over the years, when I went back to see what happened after Beryl, it was just so devastating. So we have been trying as much as possible to bring these ladies together and help their businesses through peer learning and collaboration. The other thing that we believe that is very important to move these ladies to the next stage is mentorship. It allows them to build confidence and continue to plan. I saw the tears while we were doing some of these workshops and while we were implementing some of these field visits and holding these ladies' hands and introducing them to other ladies that are in the same position or who have been able to bounce back from some of these things. We have ladies that would say to us, we had an order, and the very night before, we had a fire in our storeroom, and the very day before that, I was planning to stop my insurance policy. So these are some of the things that we think these stories are very important, and we think that they need to be shared, and we understand in allowing these ladies to meet other ladies or to meet persons within their field and outside of their field that can be strong mentors for them. And we have seen that program working, and we continue to foster it as much as possible. We want to embrace, or we have been embracing regional platforms. So we have an established organization, established MOU with the OAS Clearinghouse. We have used that to train over, in our context, over nearly 200 and probably 200 and plus more women in business development, also in climate resilience. So we presented different training. We had training of trainers for trainers, and then these trainers had the opportunity to train ladies, and we have seen positive things coming out of these kind of relationships that we have been fostering or engaging over the past couple of years. Next slide. Good. While we are waiting, what I could say is that I just want to share what we have learned in terms of what are the approaches that we believe that will work in terms of supporting women to navigate climate change and resilience, allowing them to bounce back quicker. Peer learning, we have seen the importance of that, creating informal networks post-disaster, market rotation. We looked at sector-based workshops that they foster peer exchange, entrepreneurs engage in regional platforms. We think once we are able to go into the communities and deal with the communities and the businesses within these particular communities from their standpoint, meeting them on the ground locally, we realize that the support that we have been offering have been more far-reaching, and we are seeing more positive things coming out of actually dealing with persons on the ground in their particular communities, right? Next slide. For us, what resilience looks like, I think we see resilience as in preparedness. We see it not only as a mindset, we want it to be not just preparedness. We want it to be a mindset. It must be engraved in the whole business development from the start. So we were operating in a region that is faced by climate change. It's no longer something that we can ignore. So when we are doing plans and when we are strategizing, it's important for us to make it fully a part of our mindset, the way that we operate. We believe that it's important that these businesses are given the right tools, and not just given tools, but they are helped in terms of how they utilize these tools. And then it's important to create strong networks, very important. Women entrepreneurs, we realize that they are adaptive. They are the ones that are driving the innovation, and they are leading us, although they are the ones that have been faced with a lot of these issues. And resilience. Resilience for us is not just being technical, it's relational. We need to understand what's happening. How do we fit in? How do we relate? What is going on the ground, and actually bring it into to business strategies. So that's how, and then wrapping up very quickly, because I realize time is going. I want to say, when preparedness tools and community come together, women-owned businesses do not just strive, they adapt, they innovate, and they lead. These are not passive outcomes as far as we see. They are result intentionally designed strategic support and collective strength that we put forward when we are dealing with the issues that are being faced by our female-owned businesses. Resilience in this context is not merely a technical capacity, it is relational, cultural, and deeply human. This is why resilience must be understood as a shared responsibility, one that values life experiences. It fosters collaboration and invests in systems that allow women to grow, because when women rise, ecosystems rise with that. And with that, I say thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nisha. We are running short of time, but just a reminder that you are already a community. Use this space to exchange your emails, your telephone numbers, to do connections. We are gonna be trying to respond to some of the questions you were asking through the event. So first question, very quickly, this one is gonna be for Amanda. So Amanda, I would like people would like to know what is the bioclimatic situation of your resilient projects. So it is an arid climate, semi-arid, and what are the climate constraints caused by climate change that you are currently facing? If you can please respond to the question. That's for Amanda. Thank you. Over to you, Amanda. Let us know if you are with us. If not, we can pass to the following question. Okay. Too many people is asking Sandra many questions about the situation in Jamaica. So first question for Sandra is what is one thing Caribbean women can do to help women in agriculture and who are located in Jamaica, and what are how are they trying to rebuild or recover?
Thank you so much for the question and for the keen interest. You know, we are, as a nation, Jamaica has, I think, very smart people, but some of those smart people are also doing things that are not so good. There are lots of scamming opportunities here in Jamaica, and even before the hurricane passed, people were putting up false websites trying to get money and help from people. So one of the things I'd like to say is that if you are seriously interested in supporting, whether cash or kind, ensure that the website you are sending your support to is a legitimate one. The government, I still am a big believer, is the best coordinator of any kind of support. There are lots of people in the eastern side of Jamaica, like Kingston, where I am, who will put a lot of products in the back of their car, a lot of food and water, and drive down to the west. It's not the best way to do it, because you're not really getting to the people who are in the remote communities, who are blocked off, who have no electricity and no running water. So the best thing to do is to coordinate through the legitimate services, which is really the government. And I'll try to share something in the link here so that people can find the right channel. But I also want to say that regarding women, one of the things I really want to encourage women to do is stop thinking about themselves as hustlers, meaning persons who are just trying to survive. We need to start thinking of our businesses as businesses. If you're a farmer, you're not just doing a little thing on the side. You're a business owner. And so all the discipline that comes with being a business owner, you need to start adapting. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you, Sandra. I would like to step now into a question for Emem. They are wondering, as you have been conducting a study of the economic profitability and viability of the hydroponics approach, they are asking you if you are proposing a social, economic, and technical context to this study you are conducting. Are you doing so?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, so we've carried out a profitability and viability assessment even before we launched into our hydroponic model. In our concept, the study actually shows that although the initial setting up costs is actually high, the system becomes profitable by the second or third cycle. And this is so because now you're using less water. We're also using less energy. Remember, I said we have a solar powered system and we have year-round production. Now you're not growing your crops based on if it's raining, if it's, if you have the drought or something, you are producing all through, you are harvesting all through. So you have year-round production, and this gives you higher yield. So socially, the model is well accepted, especially amongst the youth, as you would agree with me. The youth of today in Nigeria, I don't know, in other parts of the country, they look at agriculture like a business or an enterprise that is difficult. But in hydroponic, most of them, when they come to the farm, they're like, wow, this is something they could do because it looks easy. It's actually practical, So technically, we've ensured that feasibility through solar powered system, low maintenance modular units, and we're using testing prototypes in our partner communities. Overall, I would say hydroponics is economically viable, socially acceptable, and technically suitable for our environments. Thank you.
You, Emem. And I would like to add something because you mentioned the use of AI for monitoring.
Yes.
How are you envisioning? Because it's a very interesting point, this one, and I think it can be useful for the rest of participants. How are you envisioning the use of AI in your business?
Yes, we're already integrating it because, like I said, the whole system is automated. So the whole system from the production, from the greenhouse and the setting up and everything is automated. So AI is very important, even in terms of our marketplace integration and the community we've set up online and all of that. The AI, we use AI-driven technology, and it's been working for us, and we're also looking to expand on that as the year goes by.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna try Thokozani. I don't know if you could hear me before, but there is a question for you. That's what is the bioclimatic situation of your resilient projects? It is an arid climate or semi-arid. What are the climatic constraints caused by climate change that you are currently facing? Are you here to answer the question? Okay, I think we are having some troubles with connection. So I'm gonna go now with Sandra because she received a lot of questions today. One of them is about and it's very connected with also with the use of AI and technologies. And
Yes.
and it's not the first time we are receiving this type of questions, but how can we really move away from conventional agriculture and embrace digital agriculture? And how can we use digital technology to avoid losing the product in this case? And we have the example of one person here working with the coffee industry.
Yes. Yes.
And she's wondering, whenever we have a rainy season, it's a good time for us to harvest coffee, but it has a negative impact on drying. So
Yes.
how can we move from traditional to digital? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. So we're at an interesting time right now where there are several grants that are actually available, I know, across the Caribbean and I think also in Africa, that support farmers who are interested in looking at SaaS, which is software as a service, which is looking at how you can digitize the work that you're doing. And I want to encourage us that when we're moving forward, we need to plan from the get-go with doing whatever we're doing using renewable energy so that you don't have to then retrofit when you've built the system. In Jamaica, for example, there have been about 3 fairly well-known examples of persons coming in and doing cold storage, for example, and those projects failing. So what will happen is that a public sector entity will write up a proposal and get international funding. But beyond the funding on the building of the item or building of that infrastructure, who maintains it? So it's very important that you plan from early how it's going to be maintained so that it doesn't fail after 2 years of being launched with a big public ceremony and cutting of ribbon, that it doesn't fail because there was no planning done afterwards. Because we know the funding that we get from international donors don't last beyond the life of that quote unquote project. We're not interested in projects. We're interested in programs that are really going to be long term and transform the life of people. So even for my business, I'm looking at impact investors. I'm not interested in persons who are coming in and just simply want a return on investment. If you're not concerned about my most important asset, which is the livelihood of the lives of the women that I'm supporting, then you're not the right donor for me. And I think one of the things we need to learn is as we look around for solutions, even in AI in the digital world, find people that share your common values and vision and find a way that you can even negotiate with them for a low entry in using their product and then to let them know that when you start scaling, you will then pay full price or even beyond. So it's being
Definitely.
creative in how you negotiate. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Sandra. I would like to do the last questions because the last questions before doing the way forward with our colleague Nina. So this last question, Nisha, and if you can please keep it short. So they were asking that given that you are a very well-educated colleague, women in agribusiness, what is for you the next step? What can be additional training do you need at this point to make an even greater impact within your community and your country? Thank you so much. Over to you, Nisha. Are you there, Nisha?
Yes, I am. Sorry, having a bit
Can
of
I do,
internet
do,
connection.
do you
Can
want me
you?
to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Yes, they were asking you that Candace was asking you that as far as you are a very well educated person in agribusiness, what can be an additional training do you need at this point of your personal or professional life to make even a greater impact in your country, in your community?
One of the things that I've realized that I think I need I probably more ladies like myself, we need more practical training in terms or even lessons learned in business continuity and how to actually incorporate that into moving our businesses forward from a climate smart standpoint. And I think I gathered a lot of information here today, and I think that is something that I would like to look forward to in terms of how do I navigate that particular area and make it, as Sandra say, from the beginning, a strategy that I would employ in terms of operation of my business going forward.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Nisha. Thank you very much, everyone, for the insightful discussion we just have. So very, very quick. And to close today's session, I am pleased to hand the floor to Nina Desanlis-Perrin, project officer at COLEAD. And yes, she's going to be doing the way forward of these sessions. Thank you so much, Nina. Over to you.
Thank you, Alonso. So hello, everyone. As we come to the end of this enriching session, I want to thank our panelists, moderators, and participants for sharing your experiences, insights, and energy. We began today by grounding ourselves in context. Climate change is not a distant threat. It is a daily reality, one that is reshaping markets, disrupting livelihoods, and testing the resilience of communities across Africa, the Caribbean, and the wider global South. And while women contribute the least to this crisis, they are among those who bear its heaviest burdens. Yet, as we have heard clearly today, women are also among the most powerful drivers of solutions. Supporting climate resilient business models for women entrepreneurs is not just an issue of fairness, it is a strategic investment in the economic and social resilience of entire regions. When women innovate, communities adapt. When women lead, value chains strengthen. And when women have access to finance, technology, and markets, the benefits multiply across households, societies, and future generations. Today, our panelists illustrated these points with concrete examples from their own experiences, which include combining entrepreneurship with advocacy to support women farmers, using climate-smart innovations like hydroponics, aquaponics, and solar-powered cold chains, and strengthening agro-processing to help small businesses resist climate shocks. They also emphasize the importance of strong business development ecosystems, from diagnostics to continuity planning, showing that resilience is something we intentionally build and sustain. Across these experiences, several common messages emerged. First of all, women entrepreneurs are already dealing with the day-to-day impacts of climate change, and this gives them a clear understanding of what solutions are actually needed in their communities. Second, they still face major obstacles such as limited access to finance, land, technology, markets, and time, because systems around them are not built to support women equally. Third, addressing these challenges will require coordinated action, more accessible and gender-responsive climate finance, policies that remove practical barriers, stronger business support systems, and more opportunities for women to learn from each other across regions. So I take this opportunity to promote our online entrepreneurs platform called Agro-Innovators. You will find all the information about this session, but also about different topics, including women empowerment and climate resilience. I invite you to join our community forum to explore sustainable innovations that transform food systems. On the forum, you can ask questions and share ideas. So this South-South series is not just a session, it is a community, and I strongly encourage all of you to continue the conversation and collaborate beyond today's session. As UN Women-COLEAD, we reaffirm our commitment to supporting women entrepreneurs as leaders of climate resilience by equipping them with the skills, networks, and tools necessary to protect and grow their businesses in a changing climate. As partners, governments, financial institutions, and development actors, we must ensure that investments and policies respond to the realities and the potential of women-led green enterprises. And for the entrepreneurs who joined us today, you are not just adapting to climate challenges, you are helping define what climate resilience looks like in your communities. Your innovation and leadership are shaping the future of food systems and local economies. So thank you all for joining us today. And special thanks to UN Women for collaboration, to our interpreters for their excellent work, and to our panelists for sharing their knowledge. Together, we can continue to support climate-resilient business models for women entrepreneurs across the Global South. As part of our efforts to monitor the efficiency of our activities and improve our work, we carry out regular surveys with the participants. So we would like to ask you for your feedback about this session, but also past sessions if you've attended them. My colleague Awefa is going to put the link to the survey in the chat right now. It's a very short survey and it should take less than 5 minutes to answer, so please do so. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day or evening, and see you next year. Alonso, I give you back the floor if you want to say something else. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you so much, Nina. Thank you so much to everyone, to the interpreters, to the people participating today, especially to the entrepreneurs, to the inspiring women we had in today's sessions. Thank you for all the sessions, during the whole year. It was incredible to be with you, and we hope to see you soon. And we are gonna stay in touch through our communication channels in the next days. So don't forget us. Thank you so much. Have a good day, good evening, good night. Bye bye.